What's going on, everybody? This is UnderTheWire85 here, giving you This Week in Wrestling. And it was a very good week in wrestling, not that there have been many bad weeks, but that's just the way it is. Yes. Woo, woo, woo. You know it. Oh, wait, wrong way. There we go. Woo, woo, woo. You know it, bro. Had to get the prop in for the week. So we had Raw, which seems like forever ago now. Raw, Impact, and SmackDown. They all had different things to bring to the table. I was also a little disappointed by every show this week. Raw continues to confuse me because they're getting into the pattern of doing things. I don't even know how to put it. They're way too focused on one feud that the rest of the show is kind of falling by the wayside. Get into that in a second. Under the Wire 85. I have my previews, reviews. This Week in Wrestling, I started last week. I will continue to do that. The pay-per-views are coming up. Hell in a Cell and Bound for Glory. You can find both of those here at Under the Wire 85 on YouTube. So, Raw started off very strong in what I would call the match of the week. That's also something else I'm going to start doing this week is the match of the week, in my opinion. It was the first match on Raw between Dolph Ziggler and Kofi Kingston. And Dolph Ziggler's been losing quite a bit, and Kofi Kingston's now not a tag team champion. I'll get to that in a second. He's not a tag team champion, and wrestling singles he hasn't done in quite some time. I mean, he's been a tag team guy for a while, first with Evan Bourne and then with R-Truth, and now maybe they're going to start to push him again as a singles guy. So Ziggler's been losing a lot recently, and a good way to prop a guy up like Ziggler that's been losing quite a bit is to put him up against somebody that you want to bring back into the singles fold. Now, Ziggler and Kofi Kingston, their match was probably a good, I'd say it was a good 10 or 15 minutes. It was a pay-per-view quality match we got on Raw. And for anybody who saw that match, they were in for a doozy. Kofi Kingston looked very, very good in that match. I don't know why WWE doesn't push him. Probably because he doesn't have the mic skills that, say, in my opinion, a less talented guy like The Miz has. And yes, for anybody just seeing this video, yes, The Miz is awful! That's all. I'm sure I'll say it later. Again. Because that's The Miz for you. Kofi Kingston pretty much out-wrestled Dolph Ziggler for most of that match, but they had Dolph Ziggler win, and what that does is it gives credibility to Dolph Ziggler that he can hang with the guy that out-wrestles him, and then that also says, hey, Kofi Kingston's still around. So, match of the week, easily match of the night on Raw, match of the week, in my opinion, started off Raw. Dolph Ziggler takes down Kofi Kingston. All good things happen when you make two guys look really good and only one of them can win. Not ending pay-per-views in draws. Just saying. Second match of the night was the Primetime Players versus the conglomerate team of Santino and Zack Ryder. Yeah. The Primetime Players, they still feel they got shafted out of their tag team title shots. They have a case for it. Santino and Zack Ryder are both singles guys that they kind of just threw together. Which I'm telling you right now, they're going to start doing that to start building their tag team division back. They're going to put guys that haven't exactly gotten it as singles competitors and make them tag team specialists. It's going to happen. Primetime Players beat them because they're a team. And they're going to push them to have a tag team title shot soon. So that makes sense. Mick Foley comes out. Oh, to start the show, we had CM Punk whine and complain and try and get a ref fired. Again, That's something TNA would do. I mean, I love TNA, but that's something TNA would do. Then again, the WWE wouldn't have a ref become a wrestler. Yeah, anybody who forgets that, I won't go there. Mick Foley comes out and props up Hell in a Cell and props up how CM Punk needs to beat John Cena in Hell in a Cell to not get respect, but earn it. And CM Punk talked his trash. Mick Foley talked a little bit of trash back. And CM Punk kind of was like, okay, Mick Foley makes sense. So that's pretty much that's pretty much how that happened. The surprise of the week, which I will also do, that is, of course, if there is a surprise or the most surprising thing of the week, they put Ryback in a match against The Miz. I was pleasantly surprised by this because I thought, okay, they're actually going to put legitimate opponents for Ryback to face. This is a good thing if you want Ryback to succeed. Now, you can have Ryback beat The Miz. Okay? That's a good win under his belt. The surprise, however, is the fact that they basically had Ryback completely steamroll The Miz. How does that make The Miz look? Okay? I get having champions that look weak that still keep the belt. Okay? Edge, Ultimate Opportunist. JBL, the guy that basically didn't really beat anybody and still was the champion for almost a year. Again, that's gimmick-based. That's fine. The problem I have is you're trying to make The Miz legitimate. And you have him basically get absolutely destroyed by Ryback. What does that say about the Intercontinental title? What does that say about Cody Rhodes, Rey Mysterio, and Sin Cara? I'll tell you what that means, because they proved it on SmackDown. Good for Ryback, though. He gets a completely slosh win over The Miz and sets himself up for the rest of the week and for the end of Raw, which I'll also get to. Wade Barrett, in his new I'm going back to the basics gimmick, faced Tyson Kidd, easily beat him, and did the thing where he chokes you out with your own arm, brings you back around, and nails you with the elbow. That's an awesome finisher. Since Wasteland wasn't that great of a move anyway, let's just give you the Big Show's WMD with not your padded elbow. Wade Barrett's arguably one of my favorite guys in WWE. I question this. Maybe this is the beginning. Maybe once he starts fighting legitimate people again, he'll bring back his whole repertoire. For now, they're having him beat guys in like 3 minutes. Other than the elbow, he's fine. And the elbow can be part of it, but I don't like it as his finisher. Let's get him something else. You know, the whole legitimate thing. Just saying. Then again, we've had finishers of a leg drop, a punch, a big splash. We've had some bad ones in the past. So I can't say this is the worst, but it's not good. So Wade Barrett wins the match. Then we had what should have been the main event, but because it's Raw, this was near the end of the show, but wasn't the last match. Sheamus, Rey Mysterio, and Sin Cara versus Alberto Del Rio, David Otunga, and Ricardo Rodriguez. A lot of people think this was a 3-on-2 match. If you follow FCW, you would know that Ricardo Rodriguez is indeed a wrestler. So even though he doesn't portray one, and basically his character in WWE says he's not one, he is one. Regardless, Sheamus, Rey Mysterio, and Sin Cara, they all are the victors in a match that was basically 3-on-2. Not a big surprise. Then we had the newly christened tag team champions called Team Hell No versus another team that the WWE Universe didn't get to vote on, now calling themselves the Rhodes Scholars, which they weren't called this at the time, but I'll get to that when I get to SmackDown. The Rhodes Scholars of Cody Rhodes and Damian Sandow. Could be a good tag team. I'm not sure I like the name, but they went out and attacked Team Hell No, and it's set up for SmackDown later in the week. Then we had a Lord Tensai Brodus Clay match, which was interrupted by The Big Show. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, The Big Show is back. Once again, Brodus Clay getting another match run in on and getting beat up. Kind of funny, actually. Lord Tensai's a good guy to put up against somebody like that, because he's been in the business for like 20 years. So there you go. Then we had the Cena Pipe Bomb, which was Cena bringing out a pipe and hitting CM Punk with it. And then we had CM Punk go to the back and beat up Mick Foley. And then we randomly had Ryback staring down CM Punk and making him run away. Look, I get it. You're making Ryback legitimate. What I don't get is why you're having him intimidate the guy on your show, and yet Ryback's not going to get a title shot for at least 6 months, if not a year. Slow build. I don't know. Raw, good, in the fact that Ziggler and Kofi was a fantastic match. Got to see Wade Barrett. We got to see all the stars that you would normally see. The bad, you saw Ryback absolutely destroy your IC champion, making him kind of irrelevant. And then you had Ryback intimidating your WWE champion. He's supposed to be the best in the world. Just saying. So that was Raw. Then we had Impact on Thursday, which, of course, there's still the Aces and Eights versus everybody else. And Hogan comes out and says, yep, we're going to put a stop to it. That's just great. We had a three-way tag team match, which this is totally something TNA/WCW would do. And that is, hey, let's not save our main event for the pay-per-view. Let's give it to them for free. Angle and Styles, Guerrero and Hernandez, Daniels and Kaz. A three-way tag team match as a preview for the match they're going to have at Bound for Glory. Normally, you would not have this match until the pay-per-view. Apparently, TNA wants it to happen multiple times. Building stuff. Just saying. So, the whole match, as expected, Angles and Styles and Guerrero and Hernandez are beating the holy hell out of Daniels and Kaz. Then they start beating up on each other. Then they have mutual respect for each other. Then they start beating up each other again. Then they just really cost themselves the match. Daniels and Kaz win. What's the point of this? Why? Save it for the pay-per-view. You know, where people have to pay money? It's a good match. But can we save it for the pay-per-view? I'm just saying. Tara and ODB for the number one contender spot for the Knockouts Championship versus Miss Tessmacher at the pay-per-view. The whole Gail Kim on the marquee thing, I guess, was a hoax. So, my bad for leading everybody on with that. If you're wondering why that's happening a bunch, it's because it is. Tara wins because that's what they're building for. Congrats. You have Tara Miss Tessmacher again, which we'll see 3 times in the span of 6 weeks. Congrats. Should be a good match. Then I think before the next match we had Gut Check with Evan Markopoulos, who was an 18-year-old. Good start. Taz said yes. Bruce Pritchard said he was too young and said no. And Al Snow said he was too young and said no. Can't beat a kid for trying. Maybe he'll show up in OVW. That would be a start. Maybe they do want to give him an OVW contract, which, by the way, I still think it's a mistake that WWE went with FCW instead of OVW, but tip of the cap to TNA for getting OVW. Good for you. There's some good developmental talent in OVW. So, there you go. Evan Markopoulos, he'll be relevant at some point. Look for him in OVW. Then we had the vacant television title, which for anybody that didn't know, Devon was given his release. Yes. Hulk Hogan basically said throughout the show that he was kind of pissed off that that happened. But, nevertheless, Devon can now do indies, while his pseudo-brother Bully Ray is pushed closer and closer to main event status. Oh well, you need mid-card guys like Devon, though. And I liked it when he was tagging with Elijah Burke, or I should say, the Pope D'Angelo Dinero, who, again, is another guy that's just been lost that I really thought was going to get pushed when he went to TNA. Regardless. So now we have a vacant television title. Hulk Hogan has a meeting. There are 4 guys in this meeting. Can you pick out the sore thumb? We have Mr. Anderson, who really hasn't been on television in a while, Samoa Joe, Magnus, and Garrett Bischoff. Let that sink in. Magnus gets eliminated first, followed by Garrett Bischoff. So we have the match for the vacant television title between Mr. Anderson and Samoa Joe. And what I thought was actually going to be a decent match, and it turned out that Samoa Joe put him in the Coquina Clutch for like 5 minutes, and then Mr. Anderson tapped out. Or passed out, or whatever you want to say. So your new TNA television champion, the Nation of Violence, Samoa Joe. Good for Samoa Joe. He and AJ Styles are now the only guys to hold every single belt they've had. And yes, the Legends title is the television title. They're the only guys to hold the World Belt, the X Division belt, the Tag Belts, and the TV belt. Those 2. Because I don't think Kurt Angle held all the belts at that time. And Christian was never an X Division champion. There you go. So AJ Styles and Samoa Joe are the only 2 guys to hold all 4 belts. Congrats. Those are the 2 guys when you think TNA Originals. Those are the 2 guys. That makes sense. Bully Ray was going to face Austin Aries and Jeff Hardy, and he had to get a partner that they finally revealed to being Bobby Roode. Fantastic match. It was a great way to end the show wrestling-wise. We saw the dichotomy of Austin Aries and Jeff Hardy fighting with each other, and then Jeff Hardy getting the win after Austin Aries did a ton of the work. What I don't understand is why Bully Ray is still getting put in this position if you're not going to have him part of the match. Because Bobby Roode's fighting James Storm, and right now you have Aries and Hardy. So unless Bully Ray is just going to fight somebody randomly, it makes sense for the triple threat to still happen. I'm still waiting, though. But right now, they're building it as a one-on-one match. Which, it could be good. I still think it would be better if Bully Ray was in it. Just saying. Then we had the Aces and Eights and Hogan and Sting thing, which I'm now convinced of something. Yes, I will say it here first. So Hogan and Sting get kidnapped by Aces and Eights to make a deal for the release of Joseph Parks, a.k.a. Abyss. They bring the leader out of Aces and Eights, or the supposed leader of Aces and Eights. For anybody who pays attention to cadence in people's voices, yeah, you know. You know who it is. As Vince McMahon said when he brought him in as his general manager, his name is Eric Bischoff. Yeah. Eric Bischoff is the leader of Aces and Eights. It kind of makes sense. Eric Bischoff can't be known as Eric Bischoff anymore, remember? Because Garrett Bischoff beat him. Eric Bischoff, aces and eights. Calling it now. If you listen to the cadence in his voice, the way he talks, even under that garbled mess they have those guys talk under, it's not Jeff Jarrett. It's Eric Bischoff. Calling it right now. SmackDown. We had Orton, Big Show, and ADR come out and say that they all think they're number one contenders. Great. That led to the Big Show and Randy Orton having a match later in the night. Also, WWE note, Kelly released from her contract. Now, whether she quit, she got fired, or she got released, it doesn't matter. She's not in the company anymore. Which makes one less blonde for Eve to blame in the attack on Caitlyn. You know, since half the divas are blonde. I guarantee you Eve was wearing a wig, and she's going to be the assailant. Calling it now. So then we had Antonio Cesaro and Santino Marella for the 5th time? I don't remember. Cesaro beats him. Congratulations. You've accomplished nothing. Oh wait, who did Santino beat most of the time he was U.S. champion? Oh yeah, that's right. Jack Swagger. Legitimacy. Please. Wade Barrett defeated Zack Ryder with his elbow thing again, and Zack Ryder loses because he couldn't connect on the broski boot again. Congrats for Wade Barrett, but let's just bury Zack Ryder some more, shall we? Then we had Miz TV. Yuck. Sheamus came out and completely slapped him around. And then somebody came out. Oh, it was Ziggler, of course. Ziggler comes out and basically says, yeah, it doesn't matter what happens at Hell in a Cell, I guarantee you I'm leaving the world champion. Way to leave some intrigue. Just saying. Let's keep it a surprise, if you're going to go that route. So, Ziggler and Sheamus fight, and Miz TV is a joke, and can we not have talk shows with unimportant, awful people? Alright, now I have to look at a screen because of all the tag teams that happened. Tag team tournament announced for the pay-per-view. I'm sorry, not for the pay-per-view, but leading up to the pay-per-view. 8 teams. The winners get Kane and Daniel Bryan at the pay-per-view. Back to this again. There we go. So we have the Usos, the Rhodes Scholars, Cody Rhodes and Damian Sandow, Santino Marella and Zack Ryder, Justin Gabriel, Tyson Kidd, Kofi Kingston, R-Truth, the Primetime Players, Epico and Primo, Rey Mysterio and Sin Cara. Those are your 8 teams. So we had the first match of the Usos and the Rhodes Scholars. Rhodes Scholars win. Alright, here's how this is going to work out. Santino Marella, Zack Ryder, Justin Gabriel, Tyson Kidd. That match, I'm calling now, is going to be a double DQ. Something's going to happen. The Rhodes Scholars are going to be in the finals. If not, it'll be Santino and Zack Ryder, and they'll lose to the Rhodes Scholars. Kofi Kingston and R-Truth will face the Primetime Players, Epico and Primo, against Mysterio and Sin Cara. It makes sense to have Rey Mysterio and Sin Cara take on the Primetime Players. And then, whichever one you think needs a title shot more, you have them face them, and then you go from there. We'll see how it pans out, though. So an 8-team tournament. We eliminated one team last night, that being the Usos. They lost to the Rhodes Scholars. Rhodes and Sandow. I'm not completely sold on it, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Then we had Ryback completely destroyed Lord Tensai, which, as I said before, Lord Tensai, a.k.a. Albert, is a good match for somebody like Ryback to have. Somebody that's been in the business, can take the bumps, can really wrestle with a guy like Ryback. And then Ryback did his walking thing and slammed him for almost like a Samoan drop, and he wins. Good for Ryback, and Lord Tensai looks good in the match. So there you go. And then the final match of the night, Big Show, Randy Orton. Which before this match, Randy Orton gets attacked by Alberto Del Rio. Del Rio comes out and says, "No, I'm going to face you, Big Show." And then Randy Orton comes out. He's damaged goods going into the fight. Big Show gives him not one, but 2 choke slams, beats him, and then gives him a WMD after the match. Your new #1 contender for Sheamus's World Heavyweight title at Hell in a Cell is the Big Show. So there you go. So Raw had its good moments, Impact had its good moments, and SmackDown had its good moments. But they also had their pitfalls. Ryback completely obliterating The Miz, TNA deciding to put a tag team match that should be on a pay-per-view and giving it to the people for free, and making the mid-card division completely irrelevant with making everyone that's not a singles wrestler going for a title be a tag team. Which, that's Triple H and Teddy Long for you. They want the tag team division back, they get a crapshoot. That's what it is. Until next time, this has been Under the Wire 85 for my week in wrestling this week. I hope to have another one next week for Raw, Impact, and SmackDown. And again, you can check out preview, predictions, review, and This Week in Wrestling right here at Under the Wire 85 right here on YouTube. Until then, take it easy, everybody.